so far, but I can't lose it.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this round of the 2K Skip Barber World Cup for the 2021 season. We're glad you can join us here at the Summit Point Raceway for this round of the championship. My name is Connery Maddock, and I'll be joined by the one, the only Joshua Lee for this event, and we certainly can't wait to get it started here. We'll take a look at how the schedule has gone so far. We can pull that up on screen for you right now. We are getting towards the very middle portion of the season now. This round number 7 here, before we head to Suzuka, then the Red Bull Ring, then Snetterton, Nürburgring, Lime Rock, and Road America to finish off the season. But I don't know if you got a chance to have a look at some of the races that have gone by, Joshua, but we've had some pretty crazy ones, all things considered.
And some pretty interesting tracks on that schedule as well. We started out at Road Atlanta, went to Interlagos, 2 very different tracks at that, but then you throw in Mid-Ohio, Imola, Hockenheim, and Long Beach, a lot of unique racetracks. We're at Summit Point this week for the exact halfway point of the season. 6 rounds down, 6 to go when we exit here at Summit Point and take the checkered flag at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look then at our race facts then for today. It's not a doubleheader like we've had many of over the course of this season, so it's going to be a full 36-lap racing distance here. Qualifying, of course, we have the sort of Super Pole sort of format here where you only get that one single attempt at putting in a qualifying lap, and that is going to be it. If you don't get it done, you get your lap invalidated, then you will be starting at the very back of the grid here today. You do get one fast repair just in case things go wrong during the race. Our fuel is limited at 40% as well, which will create 2 pit stop windows here for these single header events. One at lap 18 to 14 and one at lap 22 to 28. So lots of options when it comes to pit stop strategy here. Even though you're only taking fuel, there's no need at all to change the tires in these cars. It's the fuel gains, the fuel saving, the track position that's really, really crucial when it comes to those strategies.
When you talk about those strategies, of course, 2 stops expected here today, like you mentioned, Connery, but the thing I'm going to be watching for is who's going to take advantage of maybe an undercut, who's going to try and go for an overcut to try and gain more spots on the racetrack, because once these cars get strung out, if they do, during this long green flag run of 36 laps, how will drivers try and gain positions in the pit lane as opposed to on the racetrack?
Yeah, that's been the usual strategy that we've seen here. A lot of fuel saving, a lot of fuel mileage races, and very much down to the wire at Imola when one of our drivers run out of fuel coming spluttering to the line, which was absolutely incredible. Maybe not for them, but for us as viewers. Here's the point standings as they are right now. Sam Keated leads the way on 3:45 with Philippe Lebert with a good time last time out, getting himself a good handful of points up into that 2nd place. Kane Halliburton, though, still up there fighting, not too far behind either, with Philip Hammer in P4. Anthony Cat P5 here today with Alexis Vico in P6. Giuseppe Tellini P7 in the points order. Everything pretty close down here at the bottom end of the top 10 with Simon Edwards, Diogo Francisco and Daniele Fogarini bringing up the end of the top 10 there. But a little bit surprising to see Simon Edwards and Diogo Francisco so far down. They've typically been very, very strong in these 2K Skip Barber World Cup events, but it seems like the first half of the season hasn't exactly gone their way.
And they still have time to make that up. Like we mentioned when we were going over the schedule, this is the halfway point of the season, so they need to start turning it around here, leave that first half behind them, get ready for the second half, because just like the first half, a lot of unknowns and a lot of unique racetracks coming up in this second half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely, and some very, very good hosts to potentially some fantastic racing as well. Of course, you know, if anyone's ever listened to one of my broadcasts, I do say that Suzuka is one of my favorite tracks, but we also have the appearance of the newly introduced to iRacing Red Bull Ring as well for round number 9. That's just going to come round in about 2 rounds time, so I'm going to be very interested to see how these cars race around there, especially considering the amount of drafting opportunities and how much these cars love to be in those big drafting packs.
And these cars on a Formula 1 track are always exciting, but here at Summit Point specifically, this might be one of the few tracks on the calendar that a lot of these drivers are accustomed to. This is a staple of the Rookie Mazda Cup and the Class D Skip Barber official series is on iRacing. So these guys know their way around Summit Point, and they're going to be able to really have a lot of confidence going into this race because they know exactly what to do at this racetrack. Fairly simple, but relatively difficult racetrack as well, Connery.
Yeah, it is deceivingly difficult. Of course, people will say, well, it's on the rookie schedule, so it can't really be that difficult, but it is, especially coming into that middle sector with the left-hand hairpin and straight into a right-hand hairpin. You know, the track position's all weird coming into there when you go into a side-by-side fight, for example, so particularly tricky through that section. And of course, you have the variety of the fast corners towards the end of the lap, and then that long pit straight down in towards turn number 1. But we have transitioned over into our qualifying session now, and as I explained at the very top of the show, these guys get themselves just that single opportunity to be able to set their lap time here, and well, it's treated a little bit differently to the regular qualifying as a result, Josh, because well, if you make that single mistake, that's it. You're starting at the very back. And so for a race as long as this, maybe you'll be able to work your way through from that position, but it's never a place you want to be.
No, they want to qualify up towards the front, and this warm-up lap could be crucial to who ends up on that pole. They need to get these tires warmed up to a working temperature, and just like they only have 1 lap to set that flying time that they need to put themselves on the board, this is the only lap they have to warm up those tires. They need to make sure that they are ready to go once they take that green flag, because so they can set that fastest time that they need to set in this qualifying.
Yep, let's take a bit of a ride on board with Philippe Lebert. Of course, he is the sort of organizer of the series, and he also races in it as well, which is always pretty interesting. He's always very competitive as well. Let's see what he can do here. He has had a pretty good last couple of rounds, but let's see if he's able to put together a championship challenge towards the end of this one. You can see him just trying to work out the wheel, trying to get these tyres up to temperature and up to pressures as well. It's relatively, well, on the hot side of mild here today at Summit Point Raceway, so it shouldn't be too much of a big task to try and get those tyres up into the operating window. And here we go then, on the way down in towards turn number 1, on board with Philippe Leber. And, well, we'll be able to see how he negotiates this track as what is, well, I would consider him a Skippy's veteran.
He dives it into turn number 1 there. You can see a little bit of counter steer, gets it going to the right-hand side, and gets right back on the power down this straightaway. One of the tougher straightaways on this course as he'll race his way further down into turn number 3. Deceptively difficult left-hander. That curve and that sand on the right-hand side jumps out. He's going to go a little bit on the curve, a little bit to the sand. No off track. He's still good to go on this lap.
Still good to go, and then into this slight right-hand kink before you have to nail the brakes down into the hairpin. You can see how close to the left-hand side he gets. Usually you would want to take that corner relatively wide, try and get the line through, but the thing is that little kink before it just doesn't allow you to, so you have to immediately get on the brakes and take a shallow entry. But now in towards these S's sections right here, very, very fast to speed, always climbing, especially into this right-hand kink here. Be careful of the curbs, though, they can spit you out, but on that exit curb it is absolutely fine. And now it's the fast run down the hill slightly, under the bridge. There's the pit lane entry, which is going to be crucial here, given that the drivers have to negotiate it twice so far this race. Make sure you take as much curb as you want there on the exits. The iRacing system is very lenient with the off-tracks coming through there and across the line for the lap of the Summit Point circuit. On board with Philippe Leber, and he sets a time good enough for second provisionally, but those times are starting to come in now.
Nick Von Roberts went for his flying lap. He spun coming across the line. His time will not count. Benny Simonson, now you're taking a look at in the number 22. He'll work his way through turn 10. Can he hop up to the top of the leaderboard through the final corner? Hard on the power, little bit off track, not gonna get him. That was a close one there, Connery, but he comes across the line. Will it be good enough for the pole position? No, it will not. A 122.631. He'll move his way up to P5.
Yeah, always very competitive, Benny Simonson, but he would have been hoping that that lap was just that little bit better, given that he is a driver certainly very capable of getting pole position here. Here comes Kevin Budgeon then, coming up across the line. P number 12 for him today, as that time is quickly going to expire. And I think that is basically everyone. So we've had 17 cars set themselves qualifying times here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 were unable to set a time, whether or not that is sometimes due to obviously the lap being invalid, and of course sometimes due to qualifying bans as well. But that is it. The qualifying does come and go very, very quickly here in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup, and we are just about set to get to your starting grid. But it is Anthony Catt on pole position with Philip Hammer in P2, Edwards P3, and Leber in P4. So a pretty stacked front of the field, at least if you ask me. Great qualifying from Lucetta, though, is a driver that we don't usually see in these events. Has got himself up into P5 there with a great qualifying result. But without further ado, we do have to move things along just that little bit here. Let's take a look at the starting grid then for this race at Summit Point Raceway in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. I've already described the front 4 cars, or rather the front 5 cars there. Anthony Catt pole position. You see Benny Simonson there in P6. Let's see what he can do from that position in this event. Giuseppe Tellini in P7. Alexis Fico in P8. Daniele Fogarini P9 for them today. And Roger Hooker in P10. Gustavo Conde in P11 with Kevin Budgeon in P12. Simone Zamolo P13. Luis Amadio in P14. Zingretti starts 15th. Macizinski starts 16th. Sierra and Tran line up P17 and 18 respectively in this one. And well, you see the rest of the field just cycle their way through on the screen there. Remco Pleasure is going to be the driver that's starting at the very back of the 24 car starting grid here today. So let's see if he can work his way forward in and amongst all of those drivers that did not set themselves times in qualifying here. So then, drivers slowly but steadily taking themselves to the starting grid then, and then we're going to start that very, very long run down in towards turn number 1 for the first time. So you have to wonder, if you get a good start here, then you're going to be carrying all of that momentum into the first turn, and you're also having to get a whole bunch of slipstream from those cars ahead as well. So it can be sometimes a little bit of a cluster coming through the first sector in the races here at the Summit Point Raceway. Well, let's have a look then. Drivers slow to take themselves to the starting grid. They have allotted 2 minutes here to be able to get that done, and we're just waiting for Benny Simonsen and Daniele Fogarini to get themselves ready and on the starting grid. So that front row of Anthony Cat and Philip Hammer eagerly awaiting the starting signal for the moment. Just a couple more drivers, a little bit more of a delay, and now we're about to start racing here. 36 laps of the Summit Point Raceway in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. It starts now as we begin that long run all the way down in towards turn number 1. There's a slow car at the back, I think, anticipating issues in towards turn number 1 and 2. Let's have a look at the front of the field, though. Anthony Cat has been able to get away well, but Philip Hammer will challenge around his outside in towards turn number 1 for the first time. 2 by 2 for the vast majority of the pack swinging through that corner for the first time. I don't think we've had any dramas, though. Everything looks fine, at least in the front half of the field, but there's still a lot of scrapping here inside of the top 5 as Simon Edwards tries to improve position, looking around the outside. Someone's out into the gravel, though. That's Philippe Lebert, who rejoins and just about keeps it together.
Lebert going to join side by side with Lucetta as they still go side by side heading into the chicane portion of this course through turns 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then spits right back onto the back straightaway down towards turn number 10. It's all Anthony Cat up in front. Simon Edwards second. Benny Simonsen will take P3. Lebert trying to power around Philip Hammer. He will do so. Hammer now side by side with Lucetta as they come out of turn 9.
Lucetta has the inside. If he can keep there, we're fanning out almost 3 abreast on the way down in towards that final corner. Now it's Lucetta and Vico. Vico looking down the inside to try and gain P6 away. He has to try and stick it down in there, but the cars on the outside will have so much momentum coming out of that final corner. And, well, Vico will have to live to fight another day and remain in P7. But side by side ahead, side by side for the race lead as well. Simon Edwards trying to go to the pointy end of the field. He's on the outside down in towards turn number 1. Simonsen looking and waiting in the wings. He's waiting for his opportunity to try and go for the race lead.
Still side by side for that race lead. It's the 52 of Simon Edwards, the 25 of Anthony Cat. They'll dive into turn 3. Here comes Benny Simonsen out of the inside of Cat. Cat's going to fall to P3, so it's now single file up in the front of the field. Everybody single file now as they race down the straightaway towards turn 4. When will Benny Simonsen make the move on Simon Edwards? Does he think now's a good time? He won't make it. Defending heading into turn number 5 is Simon Edwards to try and keep the lead away from that Apex Racing team number 22.
Doing a good job for now. Everyone has kept it pretty respectful here at the very front. I'm seeing Nicholas Vaughan Roberts slowly drop down through the field there. It seems like the number 252 has had problems in the early stages here. We'll have a little cycle back and try and have a little bit of a look at exactly what has happened here to Nicholas Vaughan Roberts. I think it was coming down in towards turn number 5 here. Oh, he got it through turn number 4. He got a big slide on, and the only way he was going is into the grass, and someone else was spinning out right in front of him as well. That is Loris Amadio. What happened to the Italian? That is a very damaged car too.
Unfortunate for the 255. I'll try and go back and see exactly what happened between the two. And it looks like he spun going into turn number 5. It looks like he got a little bit of contact from the car behind, and that spun the 255 around. Contact from, looks like the number, it is Kevin Budgeon in the 118 with the contact heading into turn 5. But back up front, Benny Simonsen grabs the lead, and Anthony Cat now back to second place, trying to rally back to the lead. Everybody in this top 5 separated by just about 0.5 of a second. Put a blanket over the top 5.
Absolutely. Simon Edwards now diving down the inside of Anthony Cat. It's all to play for here at the very front of the field. In the early stages, we have to repeat, these guys are racing like it's the final lap, but we're only on lap number 3 of 36. So many more laps to go compared to what we've already completed, and we've also got those 2 pit stop windows to be concerned about as well. So I think, in my opinion, these guys would have to calm down a little bit to be able to even get to 36 laps.
Will they calm down is the question. There still is pit stops looming when they come across the line here to head on to lap number 4. We'll have about 5 laps until that first pit window opens. Who's going to be the first of the drivers to bring it down into the pit lane, and who's going to try and stretch this fuel further? Wrecking in the back, Saman Zamalo around in the 256.
That's a big instant there with Zamalo. There's the battle for the race lead once again, coming down in towards turn number 1. We've got scrapping behind, we've got contact behind as well. Alexis Vico had a bit of a half slide coming through turn 1 there and was able to gather it together, but my word, Zamalo had a very, very, very big off there, and it's probably worthy of a replay, so let's get it.
Contact with Gustavo Condi as he went into the corner. That was the incident for the other driver in turn number 1. Here's the issue with Zamalo. Oh, he just got a little bit of a touch going down the front straightaway, spun right into the pit lane there as he went out of bounds in iRacing. Unfortunate for him, and here's the issue a little bit further up with the 201. Contact with the 289 of Gustavo Cons, and that sent Alexis Vico around for a bit of a slide. He's still running back in P number 9. Not a lot lost for the 201.
Yeah, very well done to try and keep a hold of that one and get away with only a couple of lost positions, because with these guys running as close as they are, it's going to be very easy if you make a mistake to lose a whole bunch of positions when that French freight train is trying to come through on you. Here's the battle for 3rd place, though. The front 2 are trying to break away. Everyone else trying to scrap behind, though. Philip Hammer trying to hold on to position here over Anthony Cat. Cat on the inside in that blue and white car. Locks up a little bit. Is there an opportunity on the inside for anyone to squeeze their way through? Lucetta's looking for the 2-for-1 special through turn number 1. He gets one done, but even is that even secure?
Still battling for that 3rd spot. Here comes Lucetta down to the inside. He's going to get the door slammed on Philip Hammer in the 5th position. They're all single file once again, battling back towards turn 4 and into turn 5. Will anybody make a move heading into the slowest section on this course? One car flying up, trying to make a move. Everybody else will follow him through. Lay Bear now at the tail end of this fight. Giuseppe Tellini at the tail end of this fight as well. The top 7 all running together as they come back onto the back straightaway.
Yep, remember, we still got pit stops to factor in as well. We've got ourselves a race ahead of us here. If these guys are going to go absolutely wheel to wheel like they've been doing already all the way to the end, then that is going to be absolutely fantastic. But look at what all this fighting, though, has done for the leading pack. The top 2 trying to break away as Benny Simpson gets out into the dirt, and now Simon Edwards might have a run here if he dips back in the slipstream down in towards turn number 1, but he's just sort of deliberately going to that driver's right-hand side of the circuit at the moment just to try and make himself look big in the mirrors. And now he's just going to stay in line all the way down in towards turn number 1. No side-by-side fighting in amongst any of your leading packs this time around through turn number 1, given that I think the guys behind are starting to realize, wait, we can't let these top 2 get away. We need to get ourselves organized a little better.
That is exactly what has happened. They are starting to organize. They're further back, but up in the front, Benny Simonson gets a little bit into the sand. Everybody seems to be dipping those right side tires down into the sand trap at the exit of turn number 3. Benny Simonson a little bit loose going through that corner, but everybody, like you mentioned, Connery, single file now, trying to catch up to each of the cars in front. And only 3 laps until we head into that pit window as well. These drivers need to start thinking about pit stops here very, very soon.
Yep, they really do. As you can see on the Sadek cam, the cars just filing all their way through this section. My word, was that Anthony Cat getting the back end out, coming through the penultimate corner? He's going to lose a little bit of speed here to Lucetta, who's hunting and well, stalking all over the back of his rear wing, and now if he'll get a good run out of the final corner, he might be able to make this slipstream pass happen down in towards turn number 1. Is he going to go for it, or is he going to go for the more conservative option in just staying behind and try and get the fuel saving done? But no, he's going to go for trap position instead, and so is Philip Hammer as well. 2 positions lost in 1 corner for Cat.
Anthony Cat had a great start to this race, took an early lead after that green flag and starting to fall a little bit further back. We'll see if that 25 can march his way back up towards the front. and he's trying to chase down Philip Hammer now. He's on his back wing as they'll make their way down into turn number 4 once again. On board with the 25 of Anthony Cat. Only about 1.6 seconds back from your race leader. Not too far behind Benny Simonson as Simonson and Simon Edwards try and run away from Lucetta, Hammer, and Cat, rounding out your top 5. Cat only 2/10 back to that car in front as he's going to try and catch up. Use the slipstream coming down the straightaway as they exit turn 9.
Yeah, that's simply what is required here, as it seems like those top 2 are just content just to sort of, well, Simon Edwards at least is just content to sit behind Simonson here, try and get the fuel saving done, and that might be a good plan, especially in only a 2-car duo. Given that your immediate competitor can't get any fuel saving done really to be able to make any of those stops shorter. So this was a good plan so far for Simon Edwards, but he's got to be careful by doing that and bridging the gap to the pack behind. He's bringing the pack behind back into this battle for the race lead.
Battle for the race lead starting to close in. This might be the closest this pack has been this entire race. We haven't seen a lead change in a handful of laps. Simonson has been able to hold on to it as a couple of cars dip their toes into that sand trap. They're catching up to a lapped vehicle further up. Could that affect this battle for the race lead? He'll pull out of the way. Here comes everybody to the inside. They're not going to be out of the way so quickly. Side by side with him now is Cat. Side by side with him now is Labert. They'll all go by as they race back to the straightaway. Still single file, looking a lot like a draft pack at the Daytona International Speedway as they come out of turn 9.
Yeah, this is the typical sort of racing at this track, or these sorts of tracks in the Skip Barber cars. They are very, very draft dependent, even at tracks where you don't think things are going to be very, very drafty at all due to the speed that these guys go. At least what the speed the car allows them to go. It turns even some tracks that you wouldn't have thought to be draft dependent into draft tracks. And here comes Lucetta then, looking to get one more step higher on the podium, at least provisionally here. We have to remind everyone we're still even yet to get to the third of the way through. Marcus Lucetta tries to battle away on that inside. I get the feeling, though, Simon Edwards is trying to play the long game. He actually lets Lucetta through up into second place there. The obvious strategy here for Edwards seems to be the fuel saving and get those stops just that little bit shorter on the fuel.
Nobody yet has come into the pit lane. It looks like Lucetta's gonna battle for the race lead with Benny Simonson. Further back, Simon Edwards gonna fall to the clutches of Philip Hammer. Can Hammer make that move for P3 before he comes into the pit lane? How is this going to affect anybody's strategy? Will drivers pit this time? Will they try and wait it around and see how far they can stretch this fuel? Only time will tell as they come through turns 8 and 9 back onto the back straightaway. Can Lucetta catch up to Simonson with this slipstream? He's right on that back wing, only about a 1/10 and a half back, and diving into the pit lane. The 52 is Simon Edwards.
Yeah, Edwards is the first blinker with regards to coming down on towards the pit lane. Well, no one else in the front train has actually decided headed their way in at the moment. That could be bad news for Simon Edwards, given he won't have any drafting partners coming off for the pit lane unless he cycles back into a pack at the very back of the field. But even then, those guys will be pretty slow in clearer air. So that is an interesting situation there for Simon Edwards. Let's get a view of him then on the pit lane cameras as well, he's already left the pit lane. That's just how quick the stops are here in the Skip Barber machines. Only 11 seconds, and look at that, he doesn't have any drafting help.
He was the only car to come down pit road, Connery. Nobody joined him in any pack. He is now the only driver to pit on that last lap. Nobody else decided to come in. Now, will that start the chain reaction of pit stops? This is within the fuel windows that we are expecting these drivers to follow. It's lap 8 through 14 and lap 22 through 28. This pit window is still open for another 5 laps or so. How many drivers are going to now pit, considering Simon Edwards just did? Well, Simon Edwards set off an entirely new strategy of drivers on the racetrack. Nobody in the lead pack once again. Doesn't look like anybody in the second pack once again. Ali Favero is going to move into the pit lane. Nobody else throughout the entire field is coming into the pit lane just yet. Now 2 cars have pitted under this stint. Everybody else staying on the racetrack.
Yeah, there's Ali Favero just stationary in his pit box. Remember, it is fuel only in the Skip Barber cars. Meanwhile, back towards the top 3. Looks like Philip Hammer looking to try and make some progress on the inside there of turn 1. Simply does not have the momentum required, though, to be able to complete the move through there. He'll have to file in behind for the next turn number 3. Careful with the dirt on the outside there. Simonson has been playing with fire with regards to the exit of that corner. Through many of the laps this race, he seems to be a little bit more daring than everyone else with regards to that grab.
It's good to do that. You do gain a lot of time getting as close as you can off of that curb and into the sand, but at one point, if you get a little bit too much in there and spin around, that could ruin your entire race. They need to make sure they're being safe around that corner, and it's tough to as well, because like we mentioned when we were taking a look at one of the drivers on a qualifying hot lap, that right side curb sneaks up on you. That sand trap goes out and into the lead pack, as here comes Anthony Catt into the pit lane from 4th place. Once again, nobody else from the lead pack joins. Kevin Budgeon is in from the 2nd pack. Nick Von Roberts, Roger Hooker, both in as well from one of the smaller packs towards the back of the field. But now only 4 drivers into the pit lane. One more taker. No, nobody else into the pit lane yet.
Lucetta swings by into the race lead as well, so finally maybe a slight opportunity for Benny Simonson to get the fuel numbers in the right place. So remember, he's been at the very front of this field for a good handful of laps at this point, and he hasn't had the opportunity to be able to have a light touch on that throttle coming down into these corners. So now he has the opportunity to sit in the slipstream for a bit. It'll only be for about 2 laps maximum, though, considering the size of the pit stop windows here. The total end of our window is around about 14 laps, and we're on lap number 12 already. So still some opportunity here for Benny Simpson. Even though he's lost the race lead here, it doesn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things when it comes to this early portion of the race. Of course, that gets a little bit more spicy when we get in towards the final couple of laps. George Matuszynski's losing a whole bunch of positions here, and hopefully not too many more. Oh, he's going so slowly. What has happened? It looks like damage.
He locked up the tires heading through that corner, or coming out of that corner, I should say.
Whoa!
Oh, right front's completely gone now.
Yeah, hanging on by a thread. So Matuszynski will have to bring that car down on towards the pit lane, and he does. So at least he can use one of his fast repairs there and get that done. Meanwhile, big pit party going on at the moment, involving even some of the drivers that were inside the top 10. So we've got Fogarini in, we've got Conde in as well, Zingretti, Matuszynski also decided to come in. We had Anthony Catt is starting to cycle through on them, so he's safely ahead of those guys at least. But more importantly, actually, he's about 2.5 seconds behind Simon Edwards. You can see those 2 blue cars there on the way down in towards turn number 1. So I think Catt has lost a lot of time with the later stop there, and Edwards has been able to leapfrog them just that little bit. But the important thing for Simon Edwards is he going to cycle through ahead of Simonson and Lucetta once they come in?
You mentioned Forgerini coming into the pit lane. He actually got caught up in an incident. Alexis Vico made contact with him going into turn number 5. That is how Matuszynski got his damage on the racetrack. The driver of Forgerini came down into his racing line after trying to save from spinning out, and he made contact with the right front. That is how he got that damage, and that is how he came into the pit lane to get that prepared.
Yeah, so that's that unknown solved. Looks like Philip Hammer trying to go for P2 once again here mixing it in with the top 3 there at the moment. We're on lap number 14 now, which is the expected end of our pit stop window, so I would expect that most of these guys, if not all of them, will come down in at the very end of this lap. I don't think they can push the fuel all that much longer. You can see them with the big cloud of dust coming out to the turn number 3 there. Of course, iRacing have updated that in a recent build to make it a bit more realistic, and it hangs in the air a little bit more as well, which is an interesting little update that I spotted in the patch notes. But the current top 5 cars all kind of stuck together like glue at the moment, and soon we'll get to see if they all head down on towards the pit lane together.
Right now, up at the front of the field, currently the top 10 have not made their pit stop. The 12th place driver, Andrea Luciano, also have not made their pit stop. Here comes your race leader, Benny Simonson, in. Manuel Lucetta stays out on the racetrack. Philip Hammer comes in. Leber comes in. Tellini comes in. We'll see if Alexis Vico and everybody else back from there come in, but everybody in the top 5 except for Lucetta enter the pit lane.
Yeah, I just want to see Felipe Leber's pit entry here, because there's a whole bunch of brake smoke coming on, or tire smoke, as drivers are trying to get themselves slowed down for the corner. You can see how much speed Leber was carrying into there. We'll get it changed back over to the live pictures here, as drivers will start to get themselves out of the pit lane. There's Benny Simonson, there's Felipe Leber. Where is Simon Edwards? He is just behind them here. Edwards will have the runner speed on Leber coming down in towards turn number 1, but is it going to be quite enough before the braking zone? I don't think it will. So Edwards goes from what was effective P1, P2 down into, I would say, P3 for the moment. But of course, we still have that big unknown of what Lucetta's doing.
The Italians still on the racetrack. Everybody else have completed their pit stops over this stint. When will that number 91 bring it down to the pit lane? If it's not this time, this is going to be a wild strategy from Lucetta. And it looks like he's dipping down towards the pit lane, and it will go into the pit lane this time by. So this will be everybody in for the first pit stop of the day. And undoubtedly, Lucetta is going to lose the lead to Simonson once the 22 comes across the start-finish line on the front straightaway. And there he is right now, exiting turn number 9.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty important battle. It has spread out the leading pack just that little bit, this first pit stop cycle. But let's see if Lucetta either, well, comes out ahead or behind Mr. Benny Simonson here. Simonson still continuing to drive the wheels off of that thing, dipping the wheels into the gravel and clear of Lucetta by quite a margin, in fact. Coming down in towards turn number 1. Look at that though, Simon Edwards and Leber fighting wheel to wheel on the way in towards turn number 1, but Leber will give up the fight just a little bit before the braking zone and allow Edwards to get through. Fighting behind between Cat and Lucetta. Cat going to come out on top in that one, but it has sort of fragmented this leading pack as this pit stop phase, and look at that by Simonson. He leads by 2.5 seconds, which is quite a bit here in these Skip Barber cars.
That is a good lead, and that lead is undoubtedly going to help him, assuming he doesn't get too many tires into that sand. That was a little bit too far off there for Simonson. He'll keep it going straight and not ends up in one of the tire barriers here at Summit Point. But look at this battle for second place. Leber and Edwards ended up close together after those pit stops, and Simon Edwards coming in incredibly early compared to the rest of the drivers. The first place driver, Benny Simonson, second place driver, Philip Leber, currently are on 2 laps since their pit stop, 7 laps since Simon Edwards in the 52 came in. Interesting to see the range of stint numbers right now throughout our timing screens and when exactly these drivers will pit for their second stop, because it's going to be different from pretty much everybody.
Yeah, you can see the stint lengths on the left-hand side of your screen there. Simonson is exactly how you said it, but it gets updated across the line now. 3 laps compared to Edwards, it's 8, and now we'll see the side-by-side battle between Leber and Edwards down in towards turn number 1, and this might be calculated here by Leber and Edwards, trying to slingshot off of each other through the pit straight, trying to catch the race leader. They're not making too much progress though at the moment. Gap back up to 2.7 as we, oh, what is this? 3 wide in towards turn number 1. This is the battle for P8 going on at the moment, involving Conde, Budgeon, Favero, Vaughan Roberts, all involved in this, all scrapping it out for position. And it looks like Ali Favero down the inside there, looking down the inside for the other one as well. Conde having a bit of a trouble meeting with the apex in the middle of the corner there. And Budgeon and Favero still going wheel to wheel though.
And Kevin Budgeon's going to grab that 9th spot, but here comes Favero back on the outside. Going to the inside now, Nick Vaughan Roberts looking for the spot. 2 teammates in Vaughan Roberts and Hooker. They're staying 11th and 12th as they'll try and work their way around Favero. On board now with Hooker, coming down into turn number 8. Pulling away is Conde at the front of this field. And then it's Budgeon, Favero, Vaughan Roberts, and Hooker as they work their way down the straightaway. Using the slipstream, can Vaughan Roberts make a move on Favero? He'll peek to the inside, decides against it, pulls back into line as they come through turn 10.
Another slingshot situation for Libero and Edwards ahead. That one's not really an active battle. It's more working together to try and catch a race leader, but it's anything but teamwork in this pack at the moment, especially with that 3 wide moment just a lap ago into this very same portion of the circuit. Here comes Vaughan Roberts down the inside of Favero, coming down in towards turn number 1. That lime green car able to gain the position, and can Hooker follow through? Looks like he's trying it, and looks like he's gonna just about get level with his car, with the car exactly the same color on his outside there, and he does gain the position. Great opportunistic driving there by Hooker to squeeze through.
Oh, and 1 car into the sand, and 1 car almost off the racetrack. That's the 118, and Kevin Budgeon takes a trip through the grass. He went too far off into the sand, like we were mentioning, Connery. If you do that, you will end up in trouble. That's exactly what happened to the 118. He couldn't hold on to it. He took a trip through the grass. A little bit too early for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship, but Kevin Budgeon might be a shoo-in for the qualifiers.
Let's see exactly what happened here then. Pitches it into the corner. It's exactly what you said, just gets a little bit too wide, and with a slide coming into the gravel there as well, that's just going to exacerbate the problem. It's not what Benny Simonson has been doing in the race lead. He's been sort of going into that gravel with the car pretty straight so he doesn't get too upset. But if you go into it with any sort of slide, that can happen.
This pack going to continue to be close together as they race down into turn number 1 once again. Here comes Nick Vaughan Roberts back to the inside of Conde, looking for the spot. He will have him cleared before they even hit the braking zone. Here comes Roger Hooker now trying to catch up to the 289. Conde going to fall back into P9. Vaughan Roberts going to try and pull away from P8. Now, what will the 10 of Hooker do as they enter into turn 3?
Let's see, he's 3rd in line at the moment in this little battle pack. Now into that very tricky turn 3. All of them careful with the gravel this time around. They saw what happened perhaps with Kevin Budgeon, where he overcommitted to that corner. Now swinging in towards turn 4, immediately on the brakes into turn 5. Still no opportunities on the inside for any of these drivers at the moment. Everyone covering off everyone else, and it seems like it's a bit of a brick wall to try and break yourself through, but that can be easily surmounted, especially coming out of the final corner into turn 1, where you have that big slipstream opportunity where we've seen so many passes happen already. I will say we are coming up to, well, the start of the second pit stop window starts at about lap 22. So that's when we'll see perhaps Simon Edwards in P3 start to think about coming in, given he went short on the last lap. On the last stop, sorry.
He did go way short compared to a lot of other drivers. He came into the pit lane, and then it was 2 laps until anybody else came into the pit lane, and it was Favero who currently sits down in P11. 3 wide heading into turn number 1. It's Conde, Hooker, Vaughan Roberts. Getting the best of it is Hooker. He'll lead him into turn number 1. Then it's Conde and Vaughan Roberts running at your top 10 as they enter back through into the middle sector of Summit Point. Down into turn 3, still back to single file. Nobody looking to make any rash movements. It seems like, Connery, that run from the front straightaway down into turn number 1 is the main passing zone here as they still go single file, working their way now into turn number 4. No, looking to the inside, it's Favero on Vaughan Roberts, decides against it. They'll stay single file entering 5.
These guys have to be careful. There's a group of cars trying to catch them from behind, involving Fogherini, Vico, Amadeo, Tran, also deciding to get themselves involved in this as well, which can make it a massive pack for the battle for P8 at the moment. The reason why we haven't been paying much attention to the front of the field, well, it's been This guy just sort of running away with it at the moment. He's got the gap up to 3.4 seconds back to Simon Edwards and Philippe Leber. And Edwards and Leber have the benefit of being able to slingshot off of each other here. They're still not being able to catch the 22.
Leber will grab second place on Simon Edwards relatively easily. They've been doing that, swapping back and forth for the last handful of laps. Now officially 1 lap away from that fuel window opening. Who will be the first one to enter their way into the pit lane? We have to expect Simon Edwards incredibly soon. Ooh, and one car going off track. Is that Nick Von Roberts? Yes, it is.
It is, losing a good couple of positions here on the way down in towards turn number 3. He does find a spot in line to slot in ahead, at least of Alexis Vico there. Careful with the gravel though. My words, that was Roger Hooker getting himself very, very wide through turn 3 there, able to recover though and not fall to the same fate that Kevin Budgeon had a good couple of laps ago. But it seems like this battle of PA is where all of the action is happening right now, and it's getting more and more third parties by the minute as that secondary train that was behind them very much part of the train now.
Any takers into the pit lane? Not yet. Everybody still staying out, including those drivers who pitted on the earlier part of the last stint. 13 laps now on the stint of Simon Edwards, expecting him incredibly soon to make his way into the pit lane. The pit window officially opens this time. Here comes Condi back to the inside of Roger Hooker to look for the spot. Favero tried to go up the middle, but the door was slammed. Now to the inside of Favero goes Kevin Budgeon. They are 2 by 2. Here comes Budgeon looking for the spot on Hooker and Condi as well. He'll have to get out of the gas and onto the brakes side by side, 2 rows deep as they enter in and out of turn number 1. Hooker trying to hold on. It's Condi on his right side trying to take it over. That'll be the outside line as they enter turn 3. Still side by side for 9th position. Still side by side for 11th. Further back, loose on the inside. That's Favero.
Oh, that got so sketchy, and it could have ended in tears for a whole bunch of cars there if that car lost control, but it's still not door to door. These cars don't have doors, they have wheels as Gustavo Condi dives down the inside to lead the train for P number 8, and he's able to get that position complete down into turn 5, now swinging into turn 6, still battling behind between Budgeon and Favero, and there's also yet more wheel-to-wheel action going on behind them as well. This is kind of was the spark that lit the flame, at least as far as the battles in this back at the moment, as everyone tries to sort themselves out position. Meanwhile, news, that is Benny Simonson down in, and that is early.
That is incredibly early. That is, I think, earlier than we really expected anybody to come in, except for Simon Edwards, who pitted early in the last stint. One car way off track into the sand off of the final corner. Not exactly sure who it is, but side by side, Von Roberts and Kevin Budgeon heading down into turn number 1. Same thing with Hooker and Condi, once again heading into turn number 1.
Yeah, it's great seeing all this action. I don't know how these guys do it, just going side by side for so many corners on so many laps. The racecraft and the respect between all of these drivers is absolutely impeccable at the moment. Wheel to wheel between Vico and Fogarini, I believe that was, coming in towards turn number 3. Again, careful with the gravel. You can see how many cars have gone out into that due to the tire tracks, the grooves being made inside of the gravel there. And now we'll continue to watch this train work its way around. Philippe Leber is currently the effective race leader of this race at the moment, with Simon Edwards in tow. But I think these guys have been more slipstreaming off of each other just to get the fuel saving done more than anything else, as they both head their way on towards the safety of pit lane, with a group of cars coming down in behind as well.
Philip Hammer stays out. He'll assume the lead. Leber, Edwards, Lucetta all in. Giuseppe Tellini stays out as well. Condi looks like he's staying out as well. Same thing with that entire group. Only a handful more of drivers coming into the pit lane. Benny Simonson's going to benefit a little bit from this. He'll gain a handful of spots as everybody comes down in the pit lane. But you can see cars coming out in front of him. This is not what he wanted to see. One car 3 wide heading into turn number 1 further up. This looks to be the battle between Kevin Budgeon, Alexis Vico, and Daniele Forgerini.
Yeah, that's just the danger there. Simonsen able to get clear a little bit. There's Lucetta, currently about 2 cars behind him, although Bajuzinski is a car that's not technically a part of this battle, because they have still yet to come down on towards the pit lane. Lucetta has, of course, so Lucetta needs to deal with this traffic quickly and lock onto the back of Simonsen if he's going to have any chance at making anything happen towards the final portions of this race. So, in a way, Bajuzinski might be playing Kingmaker here, even though he has nothing to do with the battle.
Assuming they stay the way they are now, Connery, Simonsen will have the lead, not by too much over Lucetta, however. So we could see a battle for the race lead starting to develop between those two. And it depends on when anybody else brings their way into the pit lane. The driver in between Simonsen and Lucetta right now, Maruzinski, has not come into the pit lane. Condi is in, Von Roberts is in, Budgeon is in. Everybody else from 6th up to the lead still have not made their pit stops, and a handful of cars further back from there have also not come into the pit lane yet. Most notably, Andrea Luciano still has not made their 2nd pit stop and final pit stop of the day.
Yeah, here's the crucial pass there for Lucetta, and I think Bajuzinski just gets well out of the way there. Didn't want to fight it too much. This is not a battle that he should really concern himself with. He's got 13 laps on his stint at the moment. These guys have come down on towards the pit lane and have gotten their final set of, bit of fuel to the end of the race. And I think Lucetta has done just about enough to keep inside the slipstream of Simonsen here. That's all he needed to do, is to set himself up for the end of this race now. He can now wait and bide his time and try and pick his place where to pass on this final lap. And remember, just remember here, Josh, it's the start-finish line is quite far down that pit straight there, so there's the ample opportunity to get the slipstream, just about get a nose head by the start-finish line at the end of this race.
And Connery, one of those drivers using that slipstream down the front straightaway a lot. We saw him battling 2-3 wide, heading down into turn number 1. Roger Hooker speeding on the pit lane. He had to serve a drive-through penalty. He's now down in 21st. Almost all hope lost for him. 11 spots down from where he originally started the day. And to the car in front, it's around 18 seconds. That is not what the 10 needed, and that is going to spell the end of their day.
Yeah, it is. It really is. No one else joining these guys at the very well. This is technically what would be the front of the field if everyone has come down on towards pit lane, but right now, 5th place it is for Benny Simonsen. Everyone ahead of him, though, still yet to come down in. Fogarini is going to go for a 14-lap stint here at this point in the 2nd stint of the event, so they're going to have to put in quite a bit less fuel than everyone else, and hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit of a jump in terms of the pit stops here. We've seen a bit of a wide window in terms of the actual stop time. Lucetta was actually the fastest of everyone currently on this 2nd set of stops. He only put 10 seconds, or rather, well, rounding it up, 11 seconds worth of fuel in that car. Meanwhile, Simonsen put 16 worth.
And that is going to be interesting because you mentioned Lucetta. I'll use him as an example. The lane time was still 24.3 seconds. The current gap between Simonsen and Hammer is 21.7. So if somehow Hammer can fill up that car with maybe just a little bit less fuel, get that lane time down further as Forgerini comes into the pit lane, get that lane time down a little bit further, maybe to 21 seconds, he might have at least a little bit of a shot. But Simonsen is on rails right now, closing that gap even further to 21.3 seconds as he has a mirror still full of Lucetta.
Yeah, and Lucetta's just going to sit behind for now. I think the overall goal, if Lucetta has slightly short-filled that car, he's going to just sit behind and fuel save behind Simonsen for a couple of laps before actually going for the move for the race lead. And it's one of those situations that we always sort of talk about in these Skip Barber events is, do you want to even be leading at the start of the final lap? Of course you want to be leading at the end of it, but the start of it sometimes is a completely different issue, especially if there's an obvious slipstream opportunity.
How much is that slipstream going to come into play? And there's those long draft lines that we saw towards the middle of that race are all pretty much gone right now. We'll see if they close in on each other once again. Longest draft line I'm seeing is 3 with Simon Edwards, Lebert, and Anthony Capp. Everybody else is either in a 2-car line or too far spread out to really have a slipstream be such a huge effect. But with 10 to go, Tellini comes in. Hammer still staying out. He'll put his stint now up to 14 laps. Same thing with Alexis Vico, up into 14 laps on that stint. Simonson will move into P3 on the racetrack. Will it come into play? We have 9 laps to go. Time is ultimately running out for a lot of these drivers. Now's the time, if you're done with the pit stop, now's the time to be thinking, how am I going to catch the car in front and make just one last pass?
Yeah, we're just riding on board with Philip Hammer. He is one of the, well, I count 3 cars technically still left in the race that have not come down and completed their final scheduled pit stop just yet. So we'll have to be getting ourselves him coming down on towards pit lane pretty soon here. If we have a look at the, if you remember the race facts from earlier on, 28 is about the end of the second pit stop window. We're on lap number 28 now, so I would expect Philip Hammer to dive down on towards the pit lane at the end of this lap, and in fact in about 5 seconds time. Let's see if he does. He does angle towards the pit lane. He has to now get it slowed down for those yellow cones, and the pit lane speed limit don't do what we saw the driver do earlier on, and blew absolutely through that, but he's been absolutely fine. That was Roger Hooker that was the pit lane speeder a little bit late earlier on, but there's Philip Hammer getting himself into his pit box now. There is the battle for technically P3 on circuit with Benny Simonson and Manuel Lucetta. We're still waiting for Vico to come down in, which does, and coming down in at the end of his lap there. So now these guys will cycle perhaps up into the race lead. Where is Philip Hammer? There he is. He's just going to come out just behind them. And, well, as long as he keeps the draft here, at least to those 2 cars ahead, he should be fine in making this a 3-car fight for the race lead at the very end of this event. But it's so marginal. There! No! Lucetta, he's blown the motor.
Unbelievable development at the front of this field. That's exactly what happened, Connery. I think he might have shifted maybe into a higher gear than he wanted to there. And that is going to be the end of Lucetta's day. That's going to move Hammer up into second place. And I wanted to compliment him. 23.3 on the pit lane time. He did exactly what he needed to. Still 1.9 seconds separating the front 2. There's the mistake from Lucetta.
Yeah, I'll have to listen into it myself. I think it might have been just a bit too quick on the downshift, or maybe a double downshift here, as we'll take a listen. Yeah, too quick on the downshifts. It causes the revs to really spike up quite high, and that puts a lot of strain on the engine here, and these Skippy engines do go boom if you put that much stress on them.
And that is such a simple mistake, too. You know Lucetta is hitting himself right now. That is just such a simple mistake. He can do it perfectly for 28 laps. And on the 29th, does it one tiny mistake, and he is out of this race. Check out this battle we have going on for P3. Simon Edwards. Here comes LeBert to the inside. He's going to power around using the slipstream. Up into 3rd place goes LeBert. Edwards down to 4th. Anthony Cat trying to rebound. He's in 5th place right now at the end of this draft line.
Yeah, he is, so he's going to try and lock on to the back of this one, see if he can make some forward progress in this 3-car trio on the final couple of laps of this race. Lap 30 of 36, so we're very quickly getting towards the very final stages of this event now, and, well, it was a gift being given to Benny Simonson for the moment, because look at, there he is, absolutely no one around him. Well, at least in Skippy terms, there's still 1 car about 2 seconds behind, but Hammer is dropping off the pace slightly. He has to be hoping that Simonson's going to have fuel mileage issues at the end of this race, but with the stop that was the longest of anyone in that last little round of pit stops, I'm not too sure that's going to happen. But then again, he's in clear air and he's not able to draft, feel safe in the draft.
6 to go when he comes across the start-finish line, and with a 1.9 second gap, this is going to be the I don't want to jinx him, but it will be a walk-off win if he does 6 good laps here, and this is going to be the most relaxing that he has been throughout the entire race. This is the biggest gap he has had over anybody this entire day.
This is where it starts to get a little concerning for Benny Simonson, because the top end of the fuel mileage on a Skippy is 14 laps, and he would have to complete a 14-lap stint to the end with no opportunity to fuel save as well. So that is a very, very big task for Simonson. I mean, if there was one driver that could do it, it would probably be him. but again, it has to be a concern in the mind. If he's going to have to do some clear air fuel saving, he'll lose a whole bunch of time to hammer, and you can count hammer back in this.
2 seconds separating them, so Simonson does have a bit of an opportunity to start saving a little bit of fuel, try and maybe make that gap a little bit shorter. Obviously, it's not what he wants to do, but if he can save fuel and keep the lead at the same time, that's what he's going to attempt to do. Back to the battle for third, however, it's unchanged from the last time we mentioned. Actually, Edwards has gained a spot on LeBert. That's going to move Edwards, LeBert, and Cat now in the order of these three. Giuseppe Tellini trying to catch up, about 5 seconds back from this group.
Yeah, so this seems to be the place to watch, at least for now, here in this event for the final couple of laps. They'll swing their way in towards the final turn here. Fantastic medium to high speed corner, and you got to be so careful with the gravel on the outside there. Like many other places at this track, LeBert sitting inside the toe. He'll drive towards the inside here for P3, and Anthony Cat just sort of waiting in the wings here. He's waiting to sort of see where these guys are slow, where they're fast, where can he make a move on the final couple of laps to be able to get to the front of this train and score himself a podium.
5 to go. And that gap is growing in between Simonson and Hammer. So if he's, Connery, if he is just fully going for flat out to the finish on this race, like you mentioned, he's going to be cutting it incredibly close, but I think he might be okay. We've seen drivers get up to the top end of the 14-lap stints and not be sputtering coming across the line, so I think he'll be okay. But like you mentioned, they did have the slipstream to save fuel. It's going to be very interesting to see the end of this race.
Yeah, there's one other driver in the same sort of stint length as Benny Simonson, and that is Tuan Tran down in P8. But I think the situation for Tran is, there he is, he's in a bit of a drafting train, so I think he'll be fine until the end. It's just unknown for Simonson. Again, it's on the top end of the pit lane cycle, so it's not like he's definitely going to be 1 lap short here. It's just going to be a concern, and I know we've seen it before in these races. We saw a car splutter across the line for a major position inside of the race at Imola. We might potentially see it again, but I really don't want to curse that 22 at the moment. That would be unworthy of me for a commentator to do that.
I've done it plenty of times, Connery. Don't worry. It is perfectly okay as long as you apologize. But this battle for third is still heating up here. These guys have not been slowing down since that pit stop and since they've been bunched back up. Anthony Cat now up into P4. LeBert now down into P5. Will Cat try and go for third place on Simon Edwards? If you remember, Anthony Cat qualified on the pole here for Summit Point and fell back down the order pretty quickly after the start of this race, as Benny Simonson up at the front. He's gained 5 spots from where he originally started. Both Philip Hammer and Simon Edwards exactly where they began the day, and LeBert 1 position down as they all try and get into the final 4 laps of this race and settle out at where they are going to finish, coming across for the checkered flag.
Yeah, still crucial points on the line here, even though it's not for the race lead. It's still podium points, which is going to be so valuable, especially considering the top 10, the drivers at the bottom end of the top 10 and the point standings being so close together. This is still fighting for 45, 43, 41 points respectively here. So it's so important. Here comes Anthony Cat, excuse me, towards the outside over Simon Edwards. Philippe Lebert looking to the inside as well. He'll dive back to the normal racing line instead of committing down the inside here. But we've only got a handful of laps to go here. I don't think these drivers are going to be as respectful when it comes to the white flag.
That is one thing that I do not think they will be is respectful here in the final 3 laps of the race. I don't think they're going to take anybody out, but they're definitely not going to leave any room on the racetrack, as here comes Simon Edwards back on Anthony Cat. Will he be able to make a move happen? It does seem like that front straightaway is the main spot to make passes here. We've been seeing it all day. But that means it is only 1 spot to make a move, and it's at the beginning of the lap. So they're only going to have 2 more opportunities to go through that main passing zone on this racetrack before that checkered flag comes out. Will Simon Edwards be able to take advantage of it? Will LeBert be able to take advantage of it? And will Anthony Cat be able to defend them off?
That's the crucial question. Leibert third in line. He'll get the double toe coming out of the final corner here. We haven't seen many drivers capitalize on that too much. We saw a 2-for-1 special down into turn 1 a little bit earlier on, involving, I believe that was Roger Hooker in that fantastic battle for P8 that we saw earlier on. But can it happen again here today, here in the battle for P3? Leibert certainly hoping so. He's going to try and follow through in the tyre tracks of Simon Edwards here as he tries to work his way the long way around through turn number 1. He's leaving Cat there on the inside, and Cat has to be so careful here because he might lose 2 positions inside of 1 sector here as Leibert heads down the inside, down in towards turn number 3. A little bit of deja vu there for Anthony Cat, considering I believe that happened a little bit earlier on too.
And Anthony Cat got into the grass on the entry into turn number 3. That set him back even further. He is now a full half a second behind Leibert up in the front of this field. 3rd place it's Simon Edwards, 4th place Leibert, 5th place now Cat as they work their way out of turn number 6 and 7. But there's your leader, Benny Simonson. He'll take the white flag this time by. Gotta hope he has enough fuel. 2 seconds good to Philip Hammer if he can get it around for 1 more lap.
I'm very curious. I'm just going to listen in as he goes into towards turn number 1 to see how much he's lifting and coasting, and that will give us a little bit of an idea of what the fuel situation is for the driver of the number 22. Let's just listen in into the braking zone in 1. Sounds good to me, at least. I think he's going to be okay, but we'll just have to wait and see. We do see the start of the final lap now, and look at that, 3 wide for P3 down in towards turn number 1. Leibert in the middle of all of this. He swings to the outside of Simon Edwards, trying to make some progress there down in towards turn number 3, but these guys are going to go at it.
Vico and Tron off in the final corner, both stuck in the billboard. Multiple cars went off. Condi is involved in that one too. It started with the number 21 getting on the back wing of, it looks like, Loris Amadeo. That's how their race ended. 5 cars involved in that incident, but up in front it's still Simonson leading. Hammer 2nd place, Leibert, Edwards and Cat still scrapping as they enter turn 6.
Yeah, it's the battle for the final podium spot in between all of these guys. There's a lot of lost time on this lap for Benny Simonson. He's lost about, I would say, 0.4 of a second on this lap alone. Maybe he's just trying to coast it to the end here. We'll have a look then as he heads his way through the final corner, still continuing to lose a little bit of time to Philip Hammer. Is the fuel situation that dire for Benny Simonson? He's swerving, he's weaving across the line. He thinks he's done it, and I believe he has. Coming across the start-finish line now by about 1.1 seconds. It was that marginal for Benny Simonson, but what's the finish here for P3? Across the line they come, and it's gonna be Simon Edwards that comes out on top in that particular battle. But my word, a bit of drama there. I'm not sure if Simonson was that marginal or not, or if he was just coasting to the line because he wanted to be safe. But my word, that battle for P3 was crazy, and we had that massive wreck of it earlier on in the lap as well.
What an intense battle for the end there. Simon Edwards is able to just barely get across the line. Here's that replay side by side, and just a little bit faster from Simon Edwards. Ekes across the line, and you can see at the end of the race Anthony Cat blowing his own engine up there as they entered back into turn number 1 on the cool down lap. But everybody else coming across the line. A great run for Nick Von Roberts. He'll finish in 14th, 6 spots up from where he originally started the day, and everybody else still working their way across the line. And there's that incident on the final lap coming to the white flag for the number 21 and involving a handful of other cars there as well. Tron got on the back bumper of the car in front of him, and that sent both him and that car into the wall. They were battling for a handful of laps before this as well, and that's unfortunately how it ended for all 5 of those cars getting damage.
Oh, that was deliberate there from Tran as well. He went hard right into the car that was on his right side, and well, the stewards are not going to be happy about that, or rather the league owner is not going to be happy about that at the end of this event. We'll get to see what the steering input was. Yeah, that's a deliberate wreck there, and Tran has to be careful given the sporting code still technically applies in league racing sessions, especially for something as serious as that.
Yeah, and that led to a multitude of other cars also slamming into the wall there. They got stuck in that billboard as well, but that's going to end an exciting race here from Summit Point. There was no dull moments here, Connery.
Yeah, there certainly wasn't. Let's go over your race results here from Summit Point. We'll take a look at them now, and well, what a win it was for Benny Simonson. He was looking under threat at points during that race, but expertly executed strategy and just a whole bunch of clear air pace as well. Completely unmatched here in this one. He's able to pick up the race win. Hammer might have had the chance if it was one lap longer, I suppose, down there in P2. Simon Edwards, great stuff in that 3-car scrap for P3 at the very end there. He just about comes on top by around about half a tenth of a second there, down to Philippe Leber and then Anthony Cat in P5. Giuseppe Tolini P6, Daniele Fogherini P7, Gustavo Conde P8, Luis Amatillo P9 and Ali Favero rounds out the top 10 cars. Looking at the drivers down to the top 20 now, George Matazinski, Lorenzo Zingretti and Remco Pleasure down to P13. I will get my words in the right order. The syllables are quite hard though sometimes. Good job for Matazinski though in P11, considering he had that front right suspension failure before the first set of stops, but he was able to dive it down towards pit lane quite quickly to be able to try and recover and get that fast repair. Nick Vaughan Roberts P14, we've got Hans Hoyer P15, Roger Hooker P16 after getting a penalty for pit lane speeding, Manuel Lucetta P17, Kevin Budgeon P18, and you've also got Luciano in 19th and Zamolo rounding out the top 20, and then those cars that were 2 laps down and of course retired from the event as well. Alexis Rico, Tuan Tran, Mark Sierra and Antonio Ribalta will round out the 24 car finishing results here today. So, as we catch our breaths a little bit, I think, Joshua, that was a pretty crazy event, and perhaps something that we are kind of used to here in this 2K Skip Barber World Cup. You know, it's these guys really do like to fight tooth and nail for every single position possible, and to give us a big show. I think we got it again here today as well.
We certainly did, and this track we knew coming in. A lot of the drivers more confident at this circuit because it's what they sort of started with iRacing on. Like we mentioned earlier, staple of the rookie iRacing road course series, so they know this track, they know how to get around, they know how to race here. So that confidence plus everybody going all out for positions equaled some great racing, whether it was for the lead, whether it was for 20th, whether it was during the pit stops. It was all great racing throughout the field.
We do have a driver interview here for the end, though. We'll bring in Mr. Benny Simonson from that Apex Racing team. And, well, Benny, it was a bit of a weird race for you, all things considered, because it's not the usual race that we see at the very front of the field with multiple cars scrapping out. You were trying to run away by yourself and trying to make the gap back to your competitors, but just sort of managing that. You were able to break away quite early on. Just talk me through your race, because it was a bit of an interesting one for you.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, it was it was interesting. Just tried a different strategy. Obviously, we all have to short fuel on one pit stop. So I went for it on the first one, thinking there might be a little bit of battle behind, and it just seemed to gap me on the first pit stop. And then, I was just trying to push hard, obviously, to build the gap, knowing that everybody else had the shorter pit stop later on. And I think it worked out pretty well. I think the only one that matched it was Manuel, and unfortunately, I feel really sad for him that the engine let go. And then I was kind of left in front when the engine was let go. It was a shame because it would have been a great battle with him.
Yeah, it would have been, but robbed away by revving the Skippy engine a little bit too hard with a double downshift. I think it was at the which was the issue for that driver there, but for Lucetta. But at least for you, that final stint, how was it? Because we knew you had to go 14 laps on the fuel, and you had to do that without having anyone in the front to try and help you fuel save in the draft. How was that for you? Were you quite marginal, or did you know it was going to be okay?
It was. I did my math right for once. It coughed on the line, so it was pretty good. But you always have a little bit of a couple of seconds when it's still coughing in this car. But when when Manuel was gone, I was kind of just thinking, well, just try and maintain the space, and not trying to blow my engine or do anything stupid. Obviously, it was quite hot track, which means these engines let go a little bit easier. So yeah, the last stint after Lucetta was gone, I was just cruise control as quick as I can, if we can say.
Yeah, absolutely. It did seem like you were sort of the master of your own destiny at the very front of the field at the final stint there. And well, with this race win in the bag now, you get yourself a good handful of points in this series. Of course, we have to factor in things like drop weeks and things like that. But it seems like you're getting your stuff back on track. And well, are you optimistic heading into the second half of the season now? Because we have tracks like Suzuka, we have Red Bull Ring for round number 9 as well, new track to the iRacing service, so everyone's kind of starting from scratch with regards to practicing from that. And we've got Snetterton, Nürburgring, Lime Rock, Road America for the end of the season. So which of those really stands out to you, at least as a track favorite?
I kind of there was a lot of track you mentioned. Any track that's not too drafty, I like. I kind of think if it's too drafty, it gets. I was going to say, drafty gets a bit too boring, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say Snetterton has the possibility to be a bit drafty in some places. It depends what the layout we're using. And I guess Lime Rock Park then. I guess. Yeah, but then again, that can be a bit drafty at the final quarter. So, I mean, I guess any track really is. There's an opportunity to draft in these cars. But like I said, are you just optimistic about what's coming up?
Yeah, I mean, just as they come, really. I think I had too many DNFs and no-show for drop weeks anyway, so I don't think I'm in any of that hunt. But yeah, just a race at the time, and I'm not 100% sure if I can make them all. Obviously, the calendar goes quite far into the future, so yeah, just as they come, we will try and get a win.
Yeah, it's always a joy seeing you out there on track, just fighting it out for those top couple of positions. So hopefully you can make it to a few races for the end of the season. Thank you very much for joining us, and fantastic win as well, Benny. We enjoyed seeing it.
Cheers, guys. Have a good night.
There we go. That was Benny Simonson there from Apex Racing Team, taking away the race win here today at Summit Point. And it was a very well-managed race there, Joshua, by Benny. Again, he's sort of an expert with regards to that.
Yeah, and he got the lead early, and he did exactly what he needed to do throughout those pit stops to keep that lead. He did it perfectly. A perfect first stint, perfect middle stint, perfect final stint, and he was on top step of the podium in victory lane. And he's such a great driver, and he totally deserved that win here today. The most dominant car all day, no question about it.
Yep, completely not up for debate there. Great win by Benny Simonson, and that is actually all that we're going to have time for here for the 2K Skip Barber World Cup on this Sunday evening, at least if you're European. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Of course, we'll be back for this series on July 4th for round number 8 at Suzuka. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be absolutely fantastic stuff, and we'll see you then. But for now, we'll have to say goodbye. So see ya.